All right, it's 10 o'clock. We're going to bring the January 6th, 2026 work session to order, even though we don't actually gavel in. It's pretty casual. Looking at the agenda, any changes to the agenda? I know we at least have one. Yes, Councilman Warmoth.
Yeah, I would like to amend the agenda to include an executive session regarding legal advice.
Okay, so we'll add that in at the end, exec session. Anything else? We are going to move an item. Mr. Teal, his items F, Public Works, items 1 and 2 are going to be moved to the very top because of another meeting he needs to get to. So after that, I may not refer to anything in a number because it's not going to add up when we go to consent agenda. It's going to be a little bit out of order, but, okay. So let's go ahead and begin. Yes.
We don't have an item A, so Public Works, or
Oh.
I'm sorry, you said it was Public Works is what was being moved
Yeah,
to the
we're
top?
moving F1 and 2.
So if we move.
We don't have an A.
If we move
A1.
F1 and 2 to A, then
Yeah.
everything will add
Let's
up.
make that A1. Thank you.
I think review of agenda is counted as A in our program, so it works. We can fix it.
But it'll keep us a little bit more organized and people being able to follow if I go ahead and announce the items as they are on the agenda, especially when people watch the video afterwards and want to know where we are. All right, so A1, Mr. Teal.
Mayor, council members. Excuse me.
City
Yeah, so
engineer.
Yes, ma'am. Mark Teal, city engineer.
There we go,
So,
new year.
Yeah, so the 2026 LMIG grant application. So LMIG is local maintenance improvement grant that comes from Georgia DOT. So it's in the amount of $249,779.43. The required match is 30%, which is $74,933.83, bringing the current fiscal year project minimum amount to $324,713.26. The list of roads that are identified based on our RMT software: Jonquil Drive, Azalea Drive, Honeysuckle Drive, Daisy Lane, Canongate Parkway, Linkside Point, Stillwater Drive, Doe's Court, Industrial Court East, and we're milling and paving those. So normally what happens, so we save up 3 years worth of paving projects to get a better price on the asphalt. So right now we have 25, this is 26 for your approval, and then 27 for next year, and then we'll let the project.
I did have a question. I looked up where the roads were. A number of those are off of Daniel, some in Mirror Lake. But there were two different lists. One was really large, but we save up, like you said, so that we get a better price. And a lot of times we've even gotten better contractors because we have a bigger package
Yes, ma'am.
there of streets. So are they going to get paved in 27?
Yes, ma'am.
So it'll be in 27?
Yeah, and the 25 list is 10.98 miles, even though it's a bigger list, they're shorter roads. 26 total is, wait a minute, no. No, it's not. It's 10.98 for 2025 and then 1.63 for 2026, which is a total of 12.61 miles. And then we'll add 27 to it.
Okay. So those will all be on the list ultimately for 27?
Yes, ma'am.
Got it. Okay, I appreciate that. Questions from council?
Mayor,
Yeah. Councilman Montahan.
how set in stone is this list of roads? I mean, since we're a couple years away from actually doing this project, can it be modified from here?
Yes, sir.
Okay, because one of the concerns I had, and I was going to probably address this at the transportation committee meeting that we're going to have next week, but at some point in 2026, we're going to be taking over the strip of 61 from the new roundabout to downtown.
Yes, sir.
And it doesn't appear that GDOT has done any maintenance on that strip of road
Yeah, probably
in a
not.
while. So I didn't know if, when you're reviewing it with the RTM software, and if you get some feedback on that, if that's something can be added. But
Yes, sir.
that was primarily my concern, just top
Yes,
of
sir.
mind.
And the
at least.
road actually becomes the city's when they remove the traffic control, the barrels, and once that's gone, it's city right away.
Okay. Yeah. Well, my understanding is that the GDOT commissioner, has to sign off on something. And
Oh,
that might
he's
be a
already
few
signed
months. Oh, he has. Oh, really? Okay.
According to what we got yesterday from Teresa, yes, I think
Oh.
everything's in.
I believe we preemptively signed too, that
Yeah.
it would automatically kick in.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah,
I
it
didn't
says it
realize
automatically
that.
kicks in, so we should be fine.
Oh,
I believe
that's
that was
very
a
good.
resolution in January of 22.
Yes,
Oh.
ma'am.
I can send everything that I sent. It's all publicly available
Sure, yeah.
from the 22 meeting, but just for ease, I'll send it.
But yes, according to Georgia DOT, yes, the list they don't care about the list.
Okay.
They care about the amounts.
Awesome. Okay. Thank you, sir.
Anything else? Traffic signal upgrades along 78? Pardon? Oh, I'm sorry, yes. Is anyone opposed to, Happy New Year. We're gonna do this. Anyone opposed to making F1, which is now A1, consent agenda? Okay. Alrighty, traffic signal upgrades along Highway 78.
Yes, ma'am. So a new GDOT project where they're upgrading 7 traffic signal locations, 2 in Haralson County and 5 in Carroll County, which they're all on 78 in the city limits of City of Villa Rica. So so it's Highway 78, East Montgomery Street, South Carroll Road, West Montgomery Street, Dogwood Street, and then Community Square Boulevard, which is at the courthouse. Took me a while to find that one, but
City Hall.
and then South Van Wert. So they're upgrading the PED
Community
signals.
Square City Hall.
That's City Hall.
Yes, City Hall.
going toward the library, not library, I'm sorry, post office.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, there we go.
Yeah, so those 5 intersections that are within the city limits, so they're upgrading those for pedestrians, and they're installing they're installing radar detectors on 1 and 2, which is 78 and East Montgomery Street in South Carroll and West Montgomery Street. So what those do is they detect the cars, and it helps the signal run properly. Loop detectors will be installed at the other 3 locations. So that's older school, but they're in the pavement and they're hooked to the traffic signal cabinet, and they detect vehicles as well. So it's the project is in the environmental stage, which they consider public, the citizens, and they consider citizens and people. That's part of the environmental process. So that's the main part of the environmental that will be affected, and they'll be required to have a PIOH, which is a public involvement open house, and they will let us know. They'll coordinate that with city staff. And it'll be a public viewing similar to, a lot of it been to those before, but it'll be similar to the ones we've had on the SS4 here lately. Same
Yeah,
process.
people can just drop in and,
Ask questions.
yeah,
GDOT will be there, staff will be there.
maps,
Yes, ma'am.
whatever. Welcome improvements, should help with traffic. Any questions from council? Anyone opposed to making this consent item number 2?
It's just discussion. Yeah, I don't think it's already in the
Because we don't
works.
have to do anything.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
All right, we'll move back up to the top of the agenda. Appointment of Mayor Pro Tem. This is something the council decides.
It's something that they have to do at the beginning of every year.
Yeah.
Appoint Mayor Pro Tem for that particular year. And that's something that you'll do in the actual open meeting next week.
Okay. So we just need to talk about it amongst ourselves, I guess, or talk about it now.
Wage your campaign.
Okay. Well, I've actually been speaking with Jennifer about maybe modifying how we select the mayor pro tem such that it's a rotation among council members instead of a campaign per se. I don't, it doesn't, looking at the charter, it says that it doesn't really provide for that. From, I guess, if you take a strict reading of the charter just says you have to basically select one. My notion would be that it would be, you would rotate. So in one year it'd be Ward 1, and then next year it'd be Ward 2 and Ward 3. And then you would try to, at least in my thoughts, try to make it to where a person that's freshly elected would not be the mayor pro tem. So you rotate it in that way. But that's just something that maybe we can address maybe at the next, if we could put that together between now and Tuesday, maybe that's something we could address. But as far as like I guess right now going forward, I don't really have a notion or thought or about like who would, hadn't really thought about it, to be honest with you.
I think it was done rather informally, rotation for a number of years. Ms. Shirley would know beyond the years I've been on. I remember when I was new saying no thank you, because I was still getting a feel for how meetings were run in general. And you have to run the meetings if the mayor isn't there, and I'm going, I'm new. I just want to kind of get my feet in and get settled and all. And then eventually, became it, I don't know, twice or something like that. Yeah. Is that what your recollection, that it kind of rotated through
Yeah, I
everyone,
mean-
but there wasn't?
It has been rotated,
Oh,
but it
sorry.
has been just, whoever say, yeah, I want it.
Yeah.
Some people
That-
right now, I don't want it.
See, there's
Well,
not
I was
always a
gonna say-
campaign.
I will say this. I mean,
That was basically, it's done both ways as far as I know, back through the years. Just, the mayor sometime would ask, who would you like to do it or whatever, and you'd say, yeah. Or somebody would say, well, I want the position.
So my understanding when I was elected was that it was an unsaid rotation. And I would agree with, obviously we don't want somebody to step up as mayor pro tem if they don't want to do it. But yeah, I was under the impression that it was a rotation.
But not always.
But
That's
not
what I
always,
mean. It was-
exactly.
It's been done both.
So I don't know that it could ever formally be a rotation, but again, informally, that was my understanding of how it worked.
And then with election cycles, that may, so I don't know how that should play out, but obviously discuss it and,
If you choose to make, you're right, it wasn't just an informal understanding that it would pass from one to the other. Occasionally, somebody would decline, occasionally, somebody would really want to do it, and everybody seemed to try and accommodate that. You can formalize it through just passing a resolution to say we're establishing this system, and until changed, it'll rotate however you choose to make it rotate. So
would we
that's
have,
wholly within your discretion as a council.
would it need to be in the charter? Because that's more complicated that'd make it a lot more flexible than good. So if we realize, oh, that's not working out, we need to alter that. Okay. Because we did alter the charter it was 17 we're working on. I think we adopted in 18.
18.
And that's where it wasn't just formality as in, okay, the mayor's out, so you run the meetings. Because we had a problem. If the mayor was really out, like in the hospital, we had no way for documents to be signed, anything like that. And so that's when we altered the charter so that person would become the interim mayor until the mayor recovered, or if it was something where the mayor wasn't coming back, then you're the interim mayor until, there's a special election. So that became really necessary because we were in trouble if something really happened to the mayor and nobody could sign documents, et cetera.
Yeah, we were down to the third level. At that point in time, we had no mayor pro tem. So we had to create another position of interim mayor.
Okay, so
So my recollection is that the last two mayor pro tems was Anna last year, and so she was in Ward 5, And was it Danny the year before then? And so that was Ward, what ward? Dominique?
He's 5,
Ward
she's
4.
4.
Right. And then I think I was before that, right? So Ward 1 and Ward 3 are probably next in the informal rotation. And I think Ward 1
Has made their
has made the declaration.
clear.
So it's time for somebody else.
So,
Okay, so
well,
we
then
can
from
discuss it
my
kind of
logic, I guess then that leaves us one.
individually,
Yeah.
behind the scenes, get something.
Nope, nope.
Y'all
nope.
want to
Yeah,
have
all
something?
eyes just turned right here to me. I mean, I have no issue stepping up into Mayor Pro Tem.
You haven't had the honor yet.
I have not had the honor yet. I would be honored.
Okay, so we can get that worked out for Tuesday, you think?
Yeah,
Be ready
we'll
to
work
go?
on that.
All right. Okay, appointment of mayor standing committees. It's mine, let me open it up here. This is always fun, trying to work through all the names and make sure nobody's on more committees than anyone else, and that there's a different chairman of every committee. These are kind of informal if you think about it, but the whole idea behind the standing committees is that these individuals would maybe get the heads up on maybe some potential policy changes, or, hey, Parks and Recreation is, we have a splash pad now when we're proposing doing these changes. That committee would be the one to hear it. I remember years ago, there was a library one. I was on that. So we kind of, us three, that would meet quarterly, would kind of get the heads up on what's going on with the library, what are the changes getting made. And so transportation's probably been more active. Finance really didn't meet quarterly because it didn't seem to be necessary till it got closer to budget time. So that's kind of how these are put together. I think I used to be on housing too. I was, the mayor put me on whatever, and that's what I was on. But I went ahead and everyone has a chairmanship, and no one person is on more than 2 committees. I hope, right? You double check my work there, Teresa. So transportation, chair is Councilman Momtahan, and then we'll have Councilman Wormuth and Barr. Housing, chair, Councilman, I just do it because it's easier. Councilman Conte, along with Marchman and Barr. Public Safety, Chairman Marchman, Momtahan and Conte. Finance, Chair Barr, Momtahan and Wormuth. Recreation, the chair is Wormuth, and then Marchman and Conte. And so you would work with that department head of when you could be agreeable to meeting. Could be quarterly, it depends on the need. It didn't fit for finance. It's probably best if you can do a quarterly, and then just make sure you're getting the heads up. And sometimes it'll even cut down on how much we discuss something up here, because 3 of y'all will already know, like the plan, and can even update the rest of us. Any questions on those? Okay, all right, thank you. Council, appointment of election superintendent.
Good morning, Mayor and Council. Teresa Campbell, City Clerk. This is a housekeeping issue. Our ordinance says that, as stated in the background, that y'all have to name, or the body has to name a municipal election superintendent yearly by resolution, and that it would be recorded in the minutes of a meeting. Otherwise, it de facto is the city clerk. So I'm here before you with the annual housekeeping election superintendent appointment.
And you're the lucky one that has to do the training for it anyway.
Yes.
Any questions? We can put this on consent, can we not, David? Okay. All right, anyone opposed to making this consent item 2? Okay.
And then I am with you one more time.
Meeting calendar.
Yes, for the calendar, this is an item that we generally talk about at a October or November workshop and then take it to the November meeting. Because we had an election this year, there was a desire to table it until we knew the results of the runoff, since it went in, the election from November went into a runoff. And this is the first workshop or work session that the two new council people from Ward 4 and 5 are here. So this is your discussion, and I will build a calendar based upon your desires.
Okay, council discussion. Going once, going twice.
Well, Mayor,
I don't have a preference. I mean, I can go with either one, but, you know, my thing is like, Mr. Bobby, that leave like it is.
So right now, explain, Teresa, how is it again?
Currently, or in the year of 2025, we remained at the second Tuesday of the month at 6 p.m. for council meetings. The work session, there was a desire to separate the work session from the meeting. So when all conflicts from anyone's schedules were taken into consideration, the first Tuesday at 10 a.m. worked the best. It was also decided that y'all did not want to have 2 evening meetings because you wanted to make sure that if someone was not available for a 6 p.m. that they would be available for a morning, dependent upon what their schedule was. Hence the work session, first Tuesday of the month at 10 a.m., council meeting, second Tuesday of the month at 6 p.m., and then the agenda deadline is when any items would need to be on, which is the Thursday at noon before the work session.
Thank you.
Yeah, so it was proposed possibly going back to something that was done for a couple years with both meetings on the same day. The current one is the first Tuesday and second Tuesday, 10 a.m. for the work session, 6 p.m. for the second Tuesday. And not to throw a monkey wrench in, but this was all kind of discussed before the new council people. And so I don't know that we should leave anything off the table, but another option if you do, because I have heard it said that, you know, when you do the work session a week ahead, and this is legitimate, I have felt it at times, you do it a week and then you've reviewed all your material, but it's another week before you talk about it. It's not as fresh in your mind. So it's really up to the entire governing body how this all plays out and which y'all vote on. But even the Thursday before the Tuesday, if that's something you'd want to consider, it really isn't off the table. It's just that these were the two options that we came up with the previous council. So, but I think everyone at that time, I don't know how y'all feel, but everyone on council at that time, and I agreed because council corporately, as all of us, didn't like the 2 evening ones. Too often to have a conflict. I mean, there's school things at night, there's other meetings at night, and to have 2 6 p.m.s takes 2 nights out of the month every month.
I will
So-
also state so that the two new council people have full information. If you went with a Thursday work session, that affected our ability to have the city attorneys here because there are some
That's
outside
right.
conflicts with prior commitments with court and other
Okay.
situations. So that's why a Thursday work session was not one of the options.
I see, thank you. I did not recall that. Was that both our attorneys or?
I
Kind
know
of-
that there's a conflict with the Thursday evening meeting. I don't remember the daytime conflict, though.
Okay, so it may or may not be. Okay.
And then that's why we have two of us, so we can be flexible when we need to be.
Okay, so everybody going to be ready on Tuesday
Yes.
for that one? Okay. All right, item 5, resolution.
Could you,
Oh, I'm sorry.
we need
yes.
some clarity. Are you going with option 1 as it was in 2025? Do you want this on the consent? Do
figured-
you want to give the new council people a little more time to review? We just need to know direction.
Well, we do need to vote on it. I would be reluctant to put it on consent agenda.
That is fine. I just needed a direction.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Everybody will be ready Tuesday on that one? Clear. Okay, all right. All right, item 5, resolution legislative charter change, and it is not Nicole Smith handling this, it is Mr. Mecklin.
Mayor and council, this is an item that's really a holdover from last year. The last year's council talked about this several times, but decided that we would wait until this year when we have new council people here to make a final decision. And the issue for you is that for many, many years, the mayor and council would select who the city manager was going to be just in the normal course of business. That part of the charter was changed in 2024 by a legislative change, which changed the charter to provide that the mayor would select a city manager that then had to be ratified by a vote of the council, and that unless a supermajority of the council overturned the mayor's decision, then that would be the city manager. The council last year chose to recommend that legislation be submitted to our legislative delegation to change the charter back to how it was before the 2024 change was made. We did meet with the legislative delegation, and they heard us out about it, but made it very clear to us that unless they received a resolution from the city that was passed unanimously, that they weren't even going to consider it. But if we did submit to them a unanimously approved resolution, that they would decide whether or not they would act on it and submit it to make that change in our charter. I think that's sort of a succinct explanation as to where we are. And so it's really going to be up to y'all to decide whether or not to move and approve this resolution, whether or not it's unanimous or not. If it's not unanimous, then we're just wasting our time and shouldn't even submit it at all.
Questions and or discussion from council? Councilman Warman.
Sorry, when is the deadline for this with state
I don't know that
legislation?
there is an absolute deadline. Their sessions usually go until around the 1st of April. A lot of times there's some time pressure because of a crossover day. They have told us that, a bill like this is not going to be subject to the crossover day deadline, so that, we're not under immediate time pressure yet, but the sooner the better. So,
Agreed.
we need to make up our mind next Tuesday and do it or don't.
Questions, discussion?
I mean, I think I've been pretty vocal about I would be in support, complete support of this resolution. And this is just speaking in general. This would put the charter back to where the council has a say, makes the decision in who our city manager is, rather than it just being one person who makes that sole decision. And that includes not just hiring, but also firing. So the termination would go back to the power of the council, the will of the council, rather than just one person.
Yeah, I agree. I think I've got a lot of feedback from constituents that are concerned about the change in charter when it first happened, and I think a lot of folks would like to see it go back to the way it was, or how, you know, most citizens in Millerica are familiar with the process.
Yeah, 'cause most of them wanted to know why in the world did we change it in the first place. And I mean, you know what I mean, how it was changed and why it was changed. So I'm in favor of it going back to like we had it.
I'm also concur as well. I'm in favor of the resolution as presented.
I concur as well.
I wrote an email to you and Attorney Smith because now Miss Shirley's the one that's been senior to me, been on longer than I have, so I know how it was practiced. The 9.5, now we're going on close to a dozen years, of how it was practiced and what was in the charter. And I've also had some conversation with Attorney Smith because there's the words in the charter and there's the way it was practiced. And it's vague in the charter. All the beginning pages of the charter talk about the powers of the council corporately. We are the council. All of us are the council. As you get further into the charter, it breaks down the authority and jobs, in a sense, of the mayor, the council, city manager, and details on all that. The way it was practiced since I came on was that all of us participated in the hiring. I was a council person. So I was on council, and the mayor participated in, we're going through the resumes, everybody decided together on it. I don't have really a disagreement with it not being solely the mayor that decides. So I don't have a disagreement with that, although I realize it can be overridden. My problem is the wording has to be very clear because the way it played out is when we actually got rid of a city manager, even though the mayor was involved in the hiring process, the mayor had no say with the dismissal process. And that's not consistent, that's not balanced. You'd be involved with the hiring, but you have no say with the dismissal. So my concern is the way the wording is done, that it needs to be very precise in the charter. And also, I spent a little bit of time talking to Mayor Rochelle Robinson out of Douglasville and a few others. And I would like to consider the idea of the mayor presenting the candidate and/or candidates. But the way we've had a consensus to do it this time, and the council in the future won't have to do this, is that we're going to use a consultant agency. So we're actually going to use an outside agency to assist us in recruiting and vetting the candidates and narrowing them down. So we're not going to do the current way, in a sense, because of the process we've chosen to use. The current charter is the mayor decides, and picks a candidate. Right now, we're using an outside agency. Well, that's the plan. That has yet to be adopted, and I have an update on that coming up Tuesday. So,
Mayor, I'm a little lost as to what it was that you just said. So what I'm trying to understand is you're saying that you're in support of the resolution, but you're wanting what exactly to be
okay.
changed? Like, that was a lot of words, and kind of narrow it down for me a little bit.
All right, so in a nutshell, I have no disagreement with the mayor being able to changing, not sticking with the mayor being able to choose the city manager on their own. But
So-
I would like for consideration of the mayor being the one that can bring forth the candidate or candidates to be voted on by the council.
But the whole purpose is that the council has a say in who those candidates are.
Correct.
But you're saying you want the mayor to have the say in the candidates.
To be able to present the candidates And at the very least, going back to the old way did not exempt the mayor. Even the old way, the way it was practiced, even though the
And I don't
wording
think
isn't
I don't think
precise.
anybody is suggesting that the mayor be exempt by any means. I think that the mayor should absolutely be included in the process. However, it should not be solely on the mayor, and I'm not understanding why it's an issue for the council to present the candidates. I'm also confused about what you had mentioned with the termination of a city manager. Are you saying that you would prefer the mayor to have the ultimate decision on that?
No, but the
Or-
mayor had no say. In our last scenario, the mayor participated with council in previous times in the hiring, and yet when it came to the dismissal of a prior city manager, the mayor had no say. And as the mayor is the only one, whether it's me or whoever it is that sits up here, the mayors prior to me that I worked with, or the ones in the future, the mayor is the only position that's elected citywide. Okay, as a council, I was elected by a ward, and we have a fairly weak mayor system. That's the way we've chosen. That's the way our charter's written. The mayor does not vote on probably 99% of things, because unless there's a tie, it's the council. Unless there's a tie or the mayor vetoes, which can be overridden by a supermajority.
This all boils down to building consensus, because even as the charter sits as it is right now, building that consensus the mayor would hire who it is that the mayor wants by building that consensus. Just like with termination of a city manager, building that consensus is what is going to ultimately keep the city manager in the position that they're in. So again, it's all about building consensus, whether we go back to the way it was, whether we make the changes that you're suggesting, or whether we just leave it as it is right now. Again, it's all about building consensus with the council, and then the mayor does have a say in how things work. Or maybe I'm completely off.
Well, building consensus could come from any council member, too. Building
I
consensus
agree with
and
that.
getting the
I
votes.
agree with that, and I believe that the council has done a really good job about building consensus. But that's just my opinion of that.
And different cities do it different ways. I mean, charters all over the state, it's handled differently, and that's why I wanted to, talk to some other mayors and officials and kind of get some feedback. Councilman Montahan.
Mayor, so I just want to understand, I guess, what you were saying from my understanding. You don't oppose the current resolution as is, right? Or are you just raising points to address, because we have spoken about making other changes to the charter. Are you raising points to address at a later time, or is there a concern now about the current resolution that I'm just
No,
trying
if we're
to?
going to do it, we would want to do it at once. I mean, we
Okay.
don't want to go, next year, let's change something else. The problem I have with the resolution of we're just going to revert back to what it was, is what it was not clearly stated in the charter. And how it was carried out, it was vague in the charter. So even the way it was carried out could be carried out differently in different scenarios. So that language has to be clear.
David, are you following her concerns? And is that
Yeah,
something that you think you could address by next week? I mean, if the council desires to, obviously if the council desires to address those concerns, but I'm just curious.
I understand the principle that's being made, which is the mayor should have a role in hiring and firing city manager, and over the years, they always did. I mean, the mayor always took a leadership role in that decision, and many times guided the direction of.
Not my first year in. So you see what I'm saying? The language is not precise enough, so it might have been practiced that way at times, but it wasn't practiced that way
But by
in
precision-
24.
By precision, I'm not sure that I understand what you're asking for there? Are you asking that the mayor have a vote in that? Because that is something that is a difference from what the charter is, because normally the mayor does not have a vote on a motion unless there is a tie, but the mayor does have the strong power to veto items. And that's
Hiring and firing?
that's a question that, has come up a time or two before, and there's no clear-cut answer as to whether or not you have, if the council votes 5-0 to hire somebody as a city manager, whether or not you have the right to veto that or not. And that's a hypothetical decision that I haven't rendered an opinion on yet, and won't until the actual facts come about upon which to render an opinion. But if I'm understanding what you're saying, the question to me, as far as rewriting this, is whether or not we're going to provide that the mayor has a vote on hiring and firing. And that's not, this is a bad answer, but that's not the way it's ever been done before. And, I'm troubled by trying to come up with language that would satisfy that. I mean, I'm not saying it can't be done.
Attorney Smith seemed to understand what I was saying in that it had been imbalanced. Hang on one second, I'll go right over there. It had been imbalanced that the mayor, because we were all, as a council person, I'm sitting back there, it's different mayors, we were all going through those resumes and all having a say about who we were narrowing it down to and everything else. So the mayor at that time, I was on council, was doing the same thing.
And you-
was
and you did
narrowing
that.
down and helping decide who that person was going to be.
Right.
But that there was an imbalance when it came to the decision, at least in '24, of then the mayor had zero involvement when there was basically the dismissal, termination.
You did not have a vote. I mean, the mayor did not have a vote on it. That's true, and that's really the question is, because the mayor's position is a member of the governing authority. The charter defines the governing authority of Rica as the mayor and 5 council members. So the mayor's position is a part of the governing authority and does get to participate. What the mayor's position doesn't have is the right to vote, cast an independent vote on issues that come before the council. That's balanced off by the fact that the mayor's position does have a veto power that no council person has. And it's that sort of balance of powers that over the years made the system work. I mean, nobody had complete control over anything. So if the concern is, does the mayor get to participate in going over the resumes and speaking out in favor of one person as to another and giving reasons why one person or another should or should not be the city manager? Absolutely, the mayor's position has that power. What the mayor's position does not have is that when it comes up and there's a motion made to hire person X for the position of city manager, and it's called for a vote, the mayor does not have the right to cast a vote for that, one way or the other.
And yet it was like a de facto vote, because when you were back there, it still mattered. All of us were basically getting counted
Yep.
as to who we wanted to be in that position.
And
But anyway,
I think that would be true no matter what. Is that, if you're discussing in an executive session the hiring or firing of somebody, my experience over 30-something years has always been that the mayor's opinion matters a lot. And that it is important and would be taken into account. But when it comes down to coming out here and voting in public, the mayor does not get to vote.
and I think the wording needs to be very clear in what we are going back to. What is that wording going to be, that it's very clear as to who the council, when it says council, who it includes, and just that language not be vague, because we had a situation, well, when we get to that, we'll figure it out, because the language isn't clear as to what would happen. As you were saying, a hypothetical. If we can make the language as clear as possible as to how it has to play out, how it has to be practiced, because it's vague in the language. And we have not always done it, at least the 9.5 years I was on council, everything was not done the same way. And I can't speak to the prior years.
I'll take a look at it between now and next Tuesday, to see if there's anything else that I can say that might address your concerns. Again, and I hear what you're saying, but I'm just not sure that I can articulate it in such a way that it's saying what you want it to say.
Councilman Montahan. I'm sorry, Warmoth. Montahan, Warmoth, got it.
We look just alike. I would not, if I'm being completely honest, I would not be in favor of the mayor having a vote. Like you just mentioned, the mayor's opinion absolutely is important. And again, that goes back to what I just said a minute ago, is building that consensus. And if the mayor's building that consensus, then their opinion absolutely will weigh in on the council's decision. With that said, what is not working right now is the fact that we have been without a city manager since April, and the council has no say in that. The council has no say in hiring a new city manager. And so that's where we're at right now, and that's why we are on hold with an interim. And that is not to say that Jennifer and John have not done a great job. That is just to say that citizens are very concerned right now at the fact that we do not have a city manager. And I have been approached many times of, why don't you have a city manager? Well, the council has no say in that. And the pressure or the request of, hey, let's move forward with hiring, going through the consultant. That was the word I was looking for, to go through the consultant. That's not a directive that the council has the ability to give right now. Again, I would be in favor of moving forward with the resolution as presented, and that is just my opinion of that.
Just one point of clarification, we haven't had a city manager since June of 2024. Not just since April.
You're right, so it's been even longer than that.
Right.
That
because-
makes it even worse.
But we had no way of knowing that who stepped into the interim after Jeff Reese stepped in for that short period, because we needed somebody immediately. We had no idea that particular interim was not going to stay after those 6-month probationary period. That's what caught us last April. And so when we got notice some weeks in advance that that person was not going to stay on, it became necessary again. The reason we were shooting for an interim and rather than a permanent last summer is because we had agreed, we had a consensus that we would use a consultant agency, and they had said that'll take, 3 to 4 months to work through that process of recruiting, vetting candidates, narrowing them down, doing the background checks, and them coming and meeting with us. And so not only did we need somebody to fill in that time, I did bring forth candidates for interim in the form of Mr. Wood, and that did not happen. The reason then that we got put off had nothing to do with any of us wanting to delay. I've gotten the same questions you have. How come we don't have a city manager yet? How come we don't have a permanent city manager? Or we're not? Is because we were in the middle of election season then.
But business doesn't stop just because it's an election season.
It's true, but we had the possibility up until qualifying of August, we had the possibility that 3 people could turn over, so you could have 3 people not up here anymore making this decision for 3 new elected people who were going to work with the person we hired them. If we hired them before the election, we would have had 3 people that could have potentially gone off council, choosing who the 3 new people coming on would be working with for the next 4 years. Well, it ended up, there was Ward 3 was uncontested, so then we knew we knew at least one would turn over because Danny wasn't running again. So even the consultant said, what's a couple more months? You might as well wait till the election so that the people coming on have some say about the city manager they're going to work with.
But your
I don't know.
consensus with your council was that we wanted a permanent city manager. We did not want another interim. We wanted a permanent city manager. So again, if that power is put back to the council, then we would already have a city manager. As for new council members that are coming on, they're stepping into the decisions that are made by previous council. Believe me, I stepped into a hornet's nest with with what I inherited in the seat. So, regardless, that's what y'all signed up for. Sorry. We all know that that's what we signed up for.
And the reason, with the permit, you said we'd have a permit already. The idea was to use the consultants. They said it would take 3 or 4 months. And
we
I'll
haven't had one since 2024?
But remember, Diana DeSanto was here, and there was every expectation.
No, if the circumstances had been different with Diana DeSanto, she would still be here because her concern was that she had to keep either 4 council members happy or she had to keep the mayor happy. So her job was always in question, and that is why Diana DeSanto left. Had the charter not been changed and had we already adopted this resolution, then Diana DeSanto would still be here and we would not be having this discussion.
Well,
So that,
I would venture to disagree. that there
Diana
were-
DeSanto told me directly that that was where her concern was.
I had some discussions as far as some of the things we had going on in the city that were very high-pressure things.
I have a question
But
to ask
anyway,
Mr.
yes.
Mr. Macklin. You used the word veto a plenty times.
Correct.
So my thing is, can a veto be overwritten?
It can be,
Yeah, that's what I was.
with 4 votes.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was
So-
gonna suggest, I don't know that you're gonna be able to reach a consensus on what you wanna do on this today,
Yeah.
but here's at least a suggestion. Don't make this a, consent agenda item, because obviously there's some difference of opinion. Somebody next Tuesday move to adopt the resolution. Use your power, vote on it, yes or no. If 5 of you vote on it, yes, then it will go to the mayor. She got the opportunity to exercise her power to veto it. And, I mean, everybody needs to exercise what power they have and make their decision and live with the decision you made. That'll be a resolution.
David, I was
Anything
gonna
else?
ask whether it could go on consent, since it did seem like 5 council members, but
Yeah, I would suggest probably
Okay.
not.
all right.
Anything else?
Just for clarity, council, if we do not do the consensus, that means on next Tuesday, the council would have to go through this debate again?
Well, yeah, in some ways, yes, you would. Hopefully, since you've debated a little bit now, you could cut that debate down a little bit. But yeah, you're gonna have an opportunity to debate it again.
Or we could just go in consensus and all 5 of us say,
Yeah, somebody can
That's what we
move
wanna
to adopt the resolution. If there's a second, and somebody calls the question, then you'd vote right then.
I just want to go on record saying I would rather just do the consensus.
I would agree.
And for me, for clarification, Mayor, are you asking for a vote?
Oh, no, but I did want under consideration that the mayor would be in the position this would be basically, I guess you could call it a compromise on this resolution, is I get the part about not wanting the mayor to have the sole power in the hiring and firing. I totally get that. I guess what I would call a compromise is the mayor being the one to be able to present the candidate or candidates for the council's consideration and vote.
I would think, Mayor, that you have the right to do that anyway. I mean, really, any one of you, if you go back and re-adopt this resolution, any of you could do that, but certainly the mayor's position, you'll have the right to present anybody that you want to push for that position. I mean, there's nothing to keep you from
But I
doing
mean,
that.
the mayor would need to bring forth the candidate or candidates for consideration. And that, it's,
I think you could do that.
it's,
I think any one of us could do that. I could bring forth a candidate, and then the council could, so I think.
well, I know I'm mimicking another local city, but it's that that's who would be put forth for a vote, would be the candidate and/or candidates that the mayor brought forward.
Sure. And I think what David is saying and everybody else is kind of saying is that any one of us could do that, including yourself, Mayor. Could do that today, even under the current charter. If I had somebody in mind that I thought would be a great city manager, I could present that to council, put it on the agenda, we could talk about it, and then and then have a vote on it, and then if I failed, then okay, my candidate failed. But I guess.
That's not what I'm saying, though.
Okay, I see. Well, I just wanted to say, I feel like we have somewhat of an urgent need to get this passed today, not necessarily today, but soon, today or next Tuesday. And since this is the language that we've had in Villa Rica for as long as I can remember prior to the 2024 amendment, I feel like it's appropriate to go ahead and move forward with it. Since we've already discussed making other changes, wholesale changes to the charter, maybe later this year or this summer, we can then address other concerns like the ones you raised at that time. Because it also sounds like we might have a defined term problem in the charter, where sometimes it's referred to as mayor and council, and sometimes council includes the mayor automatically. Mm-hmm. And that, in changing that, will change multiple sections of the charter, or maybe what's the defined term of governing authority, which is probably defined by state law anyway. But I just feel like we just need to kind of get past this hump more immediately, and then we can come back and address, because we all have concerns with the charter, I think, but none of them are probably as pressing as this situation.
And please do be aware that next Tuesday, I do have something to present. It will not be an open session, but it's in regard to consultant agency and into having the ball, getting rolling on getting, doing that vetting and recruitment for a city manager. I worked on that. I've been working on it for a couple months, but just trying to figure out who the options were, getting some more referrals, talking to them, virtual meeting in December, trying to figure out who best would fit that to help us do that process. And I wanted to give an update on that, but today didn't really seem appropriate because we needed to do it, have an executive session in regards, because it involves personnel. Council?
So is the consensus to put this on consent agenda?
Oh, yes.
Yeah. Just for the record, can we make sure that we use permanent city manager for all the work that's been done since May 1st with my team and I? I don't want the public to feel as there's not been a city manager since 2024. There's been a lot of work, a lot of staff, team building, consensus built within our team, a lot of collaboration, a lot of support. And so while I know, and y'all know that I know, there's been a lot of work and a lot of things that have been accomplished since May 1st in this interim status, for the public or the news to hear that the city of Villa Rica hasn't had a city manager is not an accurate statement. We haven't had a permanent city manager, but we've been moving along, had a lot of great accomplishments that I don't mind sharing with y'all at a later time. But I just want to make sure that that is said, the word permanent in there, just for the sake of my team and I.
Very much appreciated, Jennifer. That's very true. Sorry about that.
I had to set that straight with a news person one time because I said hadn't had a city manager. Guy said, wait. Hadn't decided on a permanent city manager. We have had city management, and we really have done a lot of things. We were not stagnant. We did not just sit there and not get things done, which would be obvious by the agendas, streetscapes, all types of things that are getting taken care of. Anything else from council? Go ahead.
I mean, it sounds
Balls
to
in
me
y'all's
like
court.
it's a consensus to put this on consent agenda. Am I?
David, if it's on consent, does that, if the legislators wanted a 5-0 vote per se, does that,
think
in
that
mind,
is-
equate to a 5-0 vote?
I think that would be sufficient.
Okay.
I guess just really the question is that the mayor needs to agree that it be put on consent agenda, or really it's not a consent agenda item. If she does, it's fine. If she doesn't, then it needs to be a vote.
Okay.
Okay, so I'll voice that opinion. I really do think we need to be more careful about the language, and I would like an alteration. I'd like it to be very clear what we're going back to in the language, how it's going to be practiced, because there's some discrepancy in how it was practiced, and that be clear in the resolution. And I would like under consideration that the mayor be able to be responsible for bringing forth the candidate or candidates to be voted on. So
For clarification.
I'm not in consent. I'm not in consent because I think more needs to be considered, and the language needs to be very precise. The language of just reverting back to what we had, it didn't play out that way in reality on the ground all the time. Because it's too vague. I mean, that's my opinion. The language is too vague.
Excuse me, Mayor, for clarification, so are you saying the mayor bring forth candidates in addition to or solely?
That the mayor would need to present the candidate and/or candidates to be voted on. In our case, by the way, we're choosing to practice it. We are using a consultant agency that's a big part of narrowing that down and helping us do that, as opposed to the mayor going out, and doing research or using whoever and having the power, the authority to solely choose the city manager, barring an override. Or to solely dismiss the city manager. I find that a little concerning myself, because would that person then think they had to always, just please the city man, the mayor, in what they did, and they need to think about the city as a whole, depending on who's in that position.
So if this be put on consent agenda, I mean, wait a minute, I know it's got to be next Tuesday to do this, but as far as us talking now, and everybody says okay, then if the mayor says no, then that don't go on the
I don't
consent
think
agenda.
it's something that ought to be on a consent agenda if any part of the governing authority doesn't agree for it to be on a consent agenda, and the mayor has said that she doesn't think it should be on, that she doesn't agree with it, so
that means it's not
you
put
need
on-
to vote on it.
That's what I'm saying. So it won't be put on the agenda if all of us says consent and the mayor says no.
Correct.
Oh, okay. I want to make that clear.
It'll still be on the agenda.
It'll be
though.
on the agenda,
Oh,
sure.
yeah,
It won't be-
yeah.
It won't be on the consent
Won't
agenda.
be on the consent agenda.
Handled separately.
If 5 says yes and the mayor says no, then it won't be on the consent agenda, but it will be on the agenda for next.
Next Tuesday.
All right, item C1, Northwoods Phase 3, final plat approval. Mr. Griffin.
Good afternoon. Nick Griffin, Deputy Director of Building Development. This item is regarding No, now it's on.
There you go.
Good afternoon, Nick Griffin, Deputy Director of Building Development. This item is being presented on behalf of Northwoods Phase 3 regarding the final plat. During these final plat processes involving public streets, whether they're HOA ran or not, the city, what I'm doing now is telling the council and the mayor that we're ready to adopt these streets and that all the infrastructure is in place. It's built to our standard. It's been inspected, documented, and all the bonds have been received. Fee payments have been paid. So with Northwoods Phase 3, they have completed all of those steps. So we have 154 single-family residential lots in this node of Mirror Lake. We have calculated their maintenance bond to be $1,523,000. That would cover 25% of the infrastructure, essentially. Say if this development gets completed and we have an 18-month maintenance period, we can use that bond, if needed, to make any necessary repairs. We've also required this development to, or this builder, to submit a performance bond for the sidewalks and the topping of the asphalt. So, typically they don't top the asphalt until the development is near, completion. So we want to ensure that we have the funds available to do so if that developer backs out. So we have both of those bonds in place. All of the first year streetlight fee payments have been paid to the city. The street signs have been purchased by the city or by Meritage to the city. And staff is recommending the final plat approval for Northwoods Phase 3.
Let me ask you a question.
Yes, ma'am.
Did I understand you to say that as far as the sidewalks and stuff,
Yes,
if
ma'am.
the builder doesn't do it, then the city got to do it?
The city will pull that bond if the city will use that bond money that's allocated, that's held essentially in an escrow account, but it's a bond. We will use that money to pay a contractor to come in and install sidewalks if necessary, if that builder does not put them in, as required by our standard and our code of ordinances.
But if he agrees to do it, then he got to do it.
He shall do it. If they are still building, they will put in sidewalks. If they decide to walk on the development midway, we'll have the funds available to complete that sidewalk and top the asphalt.
This is to avoid things like what happened during the housing crash.
I didn't want
And if we didn't have the bond on things, then all of a sudden, somebody goes bankrupt, a developer or something else, they're gone, and the city then had to come in and complete the work that they were supposed to do if we didn't still have a bond, or a bond had expired, or there had never been one.
That's correct.
So taxpayers don't get, have it hold the bag. Normally, we'd go ahead and just adopt this and approve this. Mr. Mecklin, I know there's the meeting coming up with the Mirror Lake HOA, or is there, and I know we don't do public comment during this time, is there any, the meeting they're having, does that impact us on the approval? Are they wanting to change anything or have any input on that? I'm looking at
I think
David
we'll know
back
that
there.
Thursday.
Okay.
When we meet with them. And, we'll know that before next Tuesday.
So should we avoid putting this on consent then, because they're still having some sort of meeting having to do with, is it this plat?
My understanding is not this plat.
It was, I'm sorry to cut you off, Mr. Mecklin. I just got the email. It was in regarding to South Harbor, if I interpreted the email correctly.
That was
Okay,
my
so we're good.
understanding, too. It was not this development.
Okay, all right, that's all I had. Any questions or comments from council?
I do. I'm sorry.
Ca-
Mr.
Councilman
Griffin,
Barr.
thank you for your work and your team, all that you put into this. Great job. My only question is that, just wanted to make sure that you stated that this fully complies with the ordinance and variances in any laws that we have. And does it also negate or does not present any type of risk or cost in additional to the city? This is a two-part question, I'm
And,
sorry.
okay, so yes, each department does physically go out and inspect the infrastructure, and that's what we're really, we're looking at, during final plat stages. You got your streets, your curb and gutter, your sewer, your water line, your stormwater infrastructure. So Public Works will go out and they'll look at the streets, curb and gutter, and the stormwater. We have utilities that will look at their water and sewer. And then building development as a whole will look at their erosion control, make sure all those measures are in place, and that's bonded separately. So they're essentially, when I say it's met our code of ordinances and our standards, they either meet our standards, which is in our code of ordinances. We have sections for each trade, essentially. They meet or exceed those standards. Or the departments agree, on a certain type of sewer pipe. Like if it calls for ductile iron pipe, they've ran into an issue, they need a casing. They meet with the city during pre-con, and the city staff ensures that all those standards meet or exceed what is in our code of ordinances. As far as risk goes, I believe those bonds cover any kind of risk or any kind of monetary damages that may occur. And we also, I say this not lightly, but there's leverage that the city has in holding building permits. Say if we run into an issue, these developers, they want to build, they want to go vertical. If there's a major issue during any time of that development, the city just pauses issuing permits. We just hold those back and say, hey, you got to fix these issues. And many times we're met with, 100% compliance. They want to build, they want to sell, they want to move on. And
So that's the process to mitigate the risk. How about cost? Do you foresee any additional costs that may come back to the city?
in approving this final plat, no.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Councilman Warmoth?
Okay, you may have said this in your presentation. If you did, I missed it, so I apologize. You mentioned that in the background of all of this, that this community is private. Does that mean that
I may have missed, may have not clarified, and I'm preemptively leading us into the second item. This development is led by an HOA and ran by an HOA, but the streets and the infrastructure are public. So they have their own covenants that are recorded and at the county level. They have their bylaws and the residents have to abide by those. We absorb and take ownership of the infrastructure, and so we maintain that infrastructure. Going back to Councilmember Barr's question about cost, when we take over these roads, we're going to have a maintenance cost. I looked at that more of as like a punitive damages cost, but there's always maintenance cost involved in absorbing infrastructure. So I want to kind of redact that and
I understand.
yes, sir.
Consequential damages, not punitive damages.
Not punitive. I said that wrong.
Or
Or
consequential.
consequential damages, not punitive. Thank you, Attorney Mullin.
Any other questions? Anyone opposed to making this consent item number 3? All right, we'll make that consent item number 3. Item 2 under building development, Villa Trace final plat.
So, Villa Trace, this community, they have sought and received variances from the council prior, and we also required the engineering company on these final plats to put any kind of variance they may have received. They put them on the cover page of the final plat. That also gets recorded. It's just extra security so that nothing is missed. Essentially, checks and balances. Villa Trace itself is a private community. Okay, so it is off of a public street, but it's a private community. The city is not taking ownership of the Villa Trace infrastructure. All right, I say that this is an odd development. Previous private final plats have not been presented to council because we're not taking ownership of anything. So previous staff, it could be up for question if it's necessary or not. Staff wants to be completely transparent and also kind of coincide with our development updates. I know there wasn't one this month. There really hasn't been a lot of movement because of the holidays. But staff is presenting this final plat of a private community to you for review and approval. Villa Trace Road is a public road. So I said this was a little bit different. is because they're building off of Villa Trace Road. We have required them to put a maintenance bond on that road itself and the infrastructure within it. They're going to have to obviously have heavy equipment, and they're going to bring in, loads of lumber and building material off of Villa Trace. So we have required them to bond in the amount of $85,000. This will, same scenario, the builder leaves, we'll have $85,000 to make any kind of repairs to the asphalt, curb, or gutter. So staff is asking for the approval of the final plat. They have also been inspected. All the infrastructure has been inspected. We still make sure that it meets our standard, even though it's private. We still have their infrastructure inspected, and they are required to meet our standard on that as well. We want to make sure they get a good product.
For all of our benefit, I'm glad you have your hand up, Councilman Momtahan, because I was thinking there was a unique situation somewhat with this on why it all went private, right? But go ahead with your question,
Yeah. Well,
gated, that type of thing.
Well, when they came in, my concern, I guess, recollection was when they came in for their variance, I think they proposed these lots fronting Villa Trace to have driveways on Villa Trace. It doesn't appear from this plat that they moved forward with that, though I can't really tell, because this is not a very, the scan of this is kind of, I see a proposed sidewalk there fronting Villa Trace, but,
They are going to be entering the
okay,
Trace Road.
okay. So they're gonna have driveways on these right here?
That's correct.
Okay,
Yeah, so let's roll that curb.
okay, yeah. Well, that was what, I just couldn't tell from the plat whether that was, and that was my question.
They typically, we require them to show, sometimes meets and bounds, things like that, but really what we're concerned with is the actual lots themselves.
Right.
And to show the boundary lines on those.
Okay.
I know that's your ward, and I remember you're a little bit more on the weeds in there with constituents right off that road too,
Yeah.
so.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I think, I do remember that conversation about whether or not there was going to be a gate or gated or not gated. I don't recall what the resolution of that was. I don't know.
I was trying to recall myself, no.
If they were to have gated it, they would have had, they would only gate phase 2. Because
Yeah.
this is essentially only phase 1 off of Villa Trace. Kind of encroaches in near the phase 2 on that side street. But they wouldn't be able to close off Villa Trace itself.
Right, but ultimately, they're responsible for the roads and everything else because it's private. And we only have, I think, one other development, maybe, Old Town Village, Ward 3, with private roads, gate, and that's been an issue over the years as well.
I've heard.
Because that didn't have the bond, things didn't get finished, and those HOA fees are almost impossible to raise high enough to get all that infrastructure done, but.
And amenities themselves. So
This
if it
one
has
we're
a
set.
Pool, they're responsible for their pool
Yeah.
infrastructure, things
Right.
like that. So.
Anything else before,
Yes, ma'am.
okay,
Madam Mayor.
yes, Councilman Barr.
Again, good job, Ms. Griffin. I have a question. Since this is a private community and I understand what the resolution or the letter is stating, has this been reviewed by the attorney because of the special situation?
Not necessarily, and we have other developments that are private and under construction. They've just not been, formally brought to council because the council's not taking ownership of anything. So I've kind of created an additional step for the developers in the final plat processes, and so I don't believe, Mr. Mecklin, you've reviewed this plat. I'll absolutely send it to you if you would like to, but that review step is, as of right now, it's the engineer, planning and zoning, utilities, public works, and building development, all kind of coming together, doing a review.
Is there any need for
Thank
the
you.
attorney to see it? I mean, if we're, I don't
Having
believe
not
so.
seen it, I can't answer you whether or not I need to see it or not.
Because usually it's y'all that make sure we did everything and that they adhered to everything that got approved along the way.
We tried to.
Yeah, so
We put the
I
variances.
just didn't want to give you extra work if you didn't need it.
Well, that's not my intent. My rationale was basically because, it's a private community, and I'm hearing that there's an understanding between the city and the community. I just wanted to, just for clarification for our citizens, to make sure that if needed, our attorney, was involved or reviewed it.
Yeah, the only thing I can say in response to that is generally when we have a private community, one of the requirements that we put on it is that there be something listed in the restrictions and covenants to say that it's a private community so that people who are buying lots there understand that they're not buying something that is on a public road.
Yes, sir. And
I think it probably does.
they're working on the covenants right now. What I've done is asked them to put it on their final plat that the road is going to remain private in perpetuity, essentially, which also gets recorded. It's legal. But they are working on their covenants. Will absolutely ensure that their covenants reflect that it's going to be a private community along with their plat, which states that as well. Another condition that the city staff required of this development, even though it's private, is that there be no on-street parking, and that was requested by the fire marshal because the streets are fairly narrow and for the fire truck access and turnaround. There is to be no on-street parking. That shall be enforced by the HOA. And there's also a stipulation that there's to be no permanent structures to be built or located within the easements. There is a sewer easement. Yes, ma'am.
Can I just add for public clarification here that this is a private road, meaning that it's gated, correct?
No, ma'am.
Oh,
It
it's
just
not
means that
gated.
The city is not responsible for its maintenance.
Okay, so this is still a private road, and the HOA can enforce this because it's a private road, not a public
That
road.
is correct. And
Okay, I just want to clarify that to the public because I get asked all the time in my own HOA and in other neighborhoods within my ward of why we can't enforce the street parking. So I just want to clarify that for the public because otherwise I'll have people saying, "But this is being enforced over here in." Villa Trace, why can't it be enforced in my neighborhood? So
absolutely. And to kind of compound on that, I think any enforcement by an HOA is regulated by their covenants and restrictions.
it is, but the problem with that is still the fact that it's a public road.
Right.
So even though their covenants may restrict it, with it being a public street is where the conflict comes into play with making it enforceable.
Understood. Thank you, sir.
So the road leading into it is public, has to be, it passes by offices and other things, right? Any interior roads is theirs, and they have to pay for any maintenance and anything to deal with them.
Yes, ma'am. That's located in a legal description on the plat.
Nick, I'm sorry.
Go ahead, because I was going to move to consent, so.
Well, how close are they to getting their covenants done? Because I guess I
Very
would prefer
close.
that their covenants be done before we do the final plat, because I want to avoid the another Charleston Place issue.
I will say that they could most likely have them done by Tuesday if you would like to hold off until Tuesday.
I don't know. I mean, if you feel comfortable, I just think. I guess I'm saying for going forward.
And
I don't-
public developments, absolutely we
Yeah.
require those.
Okay.
Yeah, and that's the thing, that's why we went ahead and made him put on the final plat that there'd be no on-street parking. They wouldn't block the easements that we had and all that, but kind of a different scenario with this being private than
Okay.
to be.
The city's protected as far as our restrictions that we wanted to see. We have them on the final plat. We'll
Okay.
also, we'll hold the building permit by all means until we get a copy
Yep.
of those covenants. Not a
Okay.
problem
Yeah, that'd be good.
whatsoever. And we've
Okay.
already discussed that.
Excellent. Thank you.
Anything else? Anyone opposed to making this consent item number 4?
Thank you, Mayor and Council.
All right, building development, appeal of utility capacity decision. Mr. Bain.
Good morning. John Bain, Utilities Director, Interim Deputy City Manager. This item is a discussion that will come back to us next week when the applicant is here and the developer is here to discuss this. But we wanted to touch on the appeal, as this is the first appeal brought before us, Mayor and Council. So to speak to the project, this is a 318-unit multifamily development project, a proposed development project that would essentially be on the large parcel behind the Olive Tree Restaurant on Gordon Street. There was a 318-unit development proposed there. They had, and to be clear, they had been working with the city for a couple of years on this project. They had plans that were previously submitted. They had conversations with staff previously of the beginning, I would say, in 23. They had also been working with the Georgia Water and Soil Commission, as well as the Army Corps of Engineers on some waters of the state for this project. So they have had some work done. I believe page 15 of the packet is a letter from PEC, their consulting engineers, that speaks to some of the work that they had completed. However, since they did not obtain the land disturbance permits and begin the work, the previously supplied letter of availability on water and sewer capacity has expired. So they had to reapply for that available capacity. Based on our current ordinance and our capacity limits, where we know where we are at our treatment facilities, we had to deny that capacity application. So the developer now has the right to bring the appeal before mayor and council based on the ordinance. So that's where we are today. If I can speak to the capacity issue and why that was denied, the reality is, and this isn't directed at any current, former staff, anyone who provided availability prior, but the reality of it is we are at full capacity at both of our wastewater treatment plants. We do not have the ability, per the current demand, based on all the projects that have already been approved and are in some form of design and construction, we do not have the ability to take on new developments that will tie into our wastewater collection system and to be treated at our wastewater treatment plants. And just want to be perfectly clear, doesn't mean we're close to capacity. It doesn't mean we can only take on a little bit. It means we are at capacity. So any new development that would desire to tie into a wastewater system moving for the short term is going to be a real challenge, and will probably be back for an appeal because they will probably not receive their letter of availability in water and sewer capacity based on the ordinance the way it is written today. So I just want to be clear on that so there's no misunderstanding on whether or not this project and the result of the appeal next week doesn't mean we would have more capacity or we'd have less capacity. We're at full capacity regardless of what happens with this appeal. So again, just to be clear on where we are with that, I didn't want to have any concern about that. But I did want the opportunity to answer any questions anyone has relative to this project. Again, I think neither building development or myself are stating they did not take any action at all. They did have some plans approved. They did have a letter of availability that was provided to them from the former city engineer. But with the information we have available to us today, it's our understanding that we do not have capacity to serve. So when they had to reapply for their water and sewer capacity, our only option based on the ordinance and what we know today was a denial of that capacity request. So.
Questions from council? Councilman Montahan. Councilman Montahan.
So, and John, I may just be misremembering, but my recollection from this last spring when this whole kind of ordinance came into creation was that we were projected at that time, I think it was in 27 or 28 or 29, to be at capacity. But what you're telling us now is that we're already there. Is that,
Well-
or am I misremembering or
Well-
thinking of something else perhaps?
With the current flows that we receive to our wastewater treatment facilities, add to that what's already been approved and being constructed, we are at full capacity.
So are we kind of ahead of the projections that you gave us last spring then?
I
Or
wouldn't
is that-
necessarily, I wouldn't say we're ahead of projected. What I'm saying is, we know we are at capacity, and it may be 27 or 28 till we
Sure.
hit that number, but we know that we cannot take on any new development projects because we've already accepted enough to warrant us being at full capacity.
All right. So when you're, so you're not, if somebody were to build a house right now and it was already approved and pre-platted and everything, like for example, the units that we just approved,
Mhm.
then that, like the final plats that we just approved, if someone were to build that on, that doesn't mean that we're going to be over capacity just because they constructed that 1 or 2 units. You're saying just we're over capacity based upon what's coming, the proposed projects coming, basically. So it's not like literally today we're at over capacity. You're still saying we're projected to be over capacity based upon,
Correct.
All these- okay.
Based on projects just like we approved in final plat this
Sure,
morning. We
yeah.
took those construction projects into account.
those already baked in.
Yes, those
Okay.
are already baked in,
I
as
gotcha.
are
Okay.
the other projects, whether it's commercial construction taking place right now or industrial construction taking place. We set aside capacity for anything that has been approved recently. So based on where we are today, plus what's been approved and is currently under construction, including the projects we just discussed.
Right, okay.
We know we are at capacity even without any future projects that have yet to come before mayor and council.
And this might be more of a David question, but I guess if that is the scenario where essentially we're not in a position to grant an appeal, then what is the purpose of having this appeal process? I guess it's just to give due process to the applicant, or
The purpose of it is to follow through with what our ordinance says. I mean, our ordinance builds in that they have a right to appeal. And the standard, I think, that the council will consider is to use your discretion as to whether or not they come up with some good reasons to the council as to why you should approve their request in the face of your water director telling you that there's not sufficient capacity. I don't know what they'll say, but
Right.
they have the right to say it.
I mean, I guess, David, my thing is then, should we even have this appeal process in place? I mean, is that 'cause
Very
again,
legitimate
what's the-
question. I mean, why should you be able to appeal something that there is no solution to? I mean, that's
Right.
something that we probably do need to consider for the future, but for right now, that's what our ordinance says. That's
Okay.
why we're following it.
Okay.
Councilman Barr?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Mr. Bain, thank you for your clarification. It's very clear to me why was denied. I have a supplemental question. From this point, I know that this may not be a question for this particular matter. However, is there a proposed solution to get us to full capacity? And if so, could you?
Yes,
give me a
yes,
summary
sir,
of that?
there is, yes. We have been working with the state for a year or so plus, working on approvals to expand our wastewater treatment facility so we can have more capacity available. So anything that we're discussing today is really more of a short-term concern, more so than a long-term. We're confident we will be at a point where we can expand our wastewater treatment plants, and we will be able to continue to move forward with new development projects. I'm real hesitant to give a time frame for that, since we are working with the state, and we rely on the state to give us feedback, and then it's a situation where we supply the state reports. They may take a few weeks to a few months to review those reports. They give us back comments. We revise some reports, we resubmit to the state. That could take a few weeks to a few months. We'd like to think that, realistically, we're talking, I would say, Jennifer and I spoke on this recently, I would say in the range of 3 to 5 years is what we're looking at. It's not an 18-month solution,
Okay.
but it's also not any longer than 5 years, I don't believe. And I also believe that when we get to a point to where we've put the projects out for bid, we've received the bids, we understand what the cost is associated with expanding the plants, we obtained the funds either through bonds or other means, and we have the project started, then we can start having conversations with these developers again, because we know a development like this may be 24 months from the time it's approved until the time we actually see any impact on our infrastructure. So we feel like, you know, in some period of time from now, prior to us completing the expansion projects, we can start having these conversations again, because we know that by the time this project impacts our utilities, we will be ready to receive that.
So due to our capacity issue, does this only affect 11 Gordon Street, or will it affect any other developments within the city?
This is all parcels that are associated with our wastewater collection system. It's everything in the city.
Everything in the city?
Yes.
Gotcha. Thank you.
You're welcome. And I would like to say just one more item too. In our ordinance, we do have an exemption for a homeowner who owns a piece of property and wants to build a single-family residential unit. They're not required to go through the same process. So it still allows somebody who owns a piece of land that wants to build their home, their forever home on it, they can still do that, independent of this.
And there's some other business things, commercial business and that type of thing. It's just, we're in big developments. We have moratorium on multi-family housing
Yeah.
that we've had since June of '24. I believe it was June. So John, and I'll probably have to ask a few of these questions when they are here on Tuesday. I think there's been a strong consensus that we're growing too quickly residentially and all. But if it's accurate, when I'm reading the documents in here, that they were granted approval in June of '24 on all this, this will be my concern. I'll probably eventually ask some questions about vested rights and that type of thing, is, okay, former engineer, former city manager, there had to be at least 3 or 4 people that knew where we were on our water and sewer back then when they were given all this, okay, in '24. Did they realize that that could just disappear? You know, that there'd be, you know, if you don't move something in 1 year, this could expire and you don't have that chance. And so here's my conflict. I'm okay with us not getting a lot more residential right now. At the same time, I have absolutely no idea how much this developer, based on all the approvals we gave along the way for a couple of years, I don't know how many millions or whatever they've invested. Do we then have a problem with they have vested rights and we're going, well, sorry, but we do seem to have this caveat of capacity, which we found out in the middle of the summer of '24 with our interim city manager that was brought in. That's when our eyes got open to where we were on capacity.
Yeah, I'm sure the developer will speak to that next week, I would suspect.
I'm sure that you will hear how much they have spent based on the approvals that we gave them back then. I mean, the point that the city will make was, well, you had the opportunity and you didn't avail yourself of it in a timely fashion. I don't know all of the facts that are going to come out as to the issue of vested rights or not. That is something that we will deal with as it comes. Right at this point, my advice to the council is just listen to them, see what they say, make your decision based on what you think is right and fair under the circumstances, and then we'll deal with the fallout that comes from that.
Okay.
And I'd say too, I think all staff has had similar conversations. We're well aware of the situation and potential there. We're tasked with following our ordinance, and that's what we do our best to do. I would like to speak to the commercial aspect, though, if I may, Mayor. I know large multifamily development projects are probably the most impactful in many cases on our infrastructure, on our wastewater and water infrastructure. But again, I just want to be completely open and honest. Whether it's residential or commercial, a new development is going to be challenging for capacity. It doesn't matter if it's a 300-unit multifamily or a single-family commercial building to be built. It's the same modeling happens, the same calculations take place, therefore the same result is usually found.
They have
It's
to
just a
put their
varying level of
demands.
risk.
I mean, they have to, complete that process of how much they would use, but if they're moving into an existed facility,
That's completely right. If we have,
That's-
if we have capacity
looking at
allotted to
different-
one facility and that tenant moves out and another one wants to move in, that gives us an opportunity. Gives an opportunity, particularly in the downtown, some revitalization downtown where we have some empty buildings.
because you've
We
already
could-
calculated them
Correct.
in,
Yes.
right? Okay.
Sorry about that.
That's the way I understood it. So commercial is challenging too. If it's in the pre-existing that's already calculated in existing
Yeah.
buildings
We
or
still
a
have to do
vacant
modeling.
building.
If it's greater water use than previous, we still have to take
Right.
that into account.
Right. Councilman Warmoth?
Will you remind me when this was originally approved?
So let me refer to my document here.
I was looking at the attachment and I didn't see.
If I recall, it looks like June of '24.
Okay, and they have how long to, like with the original approval, they have how long to,
The letters of availability on capacity are valid for 12 months.
and they know this from the beginning?
It was in our ordinance from the
Okay.
beginning. I don't want to speak to their knowledge, but it was in the ordinance, and it is in the ordinance.
So June of 2025 is when that capacity would have expired.
Yes.
Okay. When did our moratorium, and remind me of just dates on this, when did we go into the moratorium, not just on multifamily, but on everything? Because this is commercial too, correct? Or this is just,
This is
Residential.
Resident,
Could you
multifamily
ad-
residential.
okay,
Didn't it have some little tiny,
so there is some
tiny
small.
element? Yeah.
The commercial component was essentially a pad that would be poured for a food truck to be parked.
Oh, okay. So when did we go into the moratorium? Do we have that information?
It would have been, I don't have it in front of me, I'm sorry, but I believe it,
Late last
Teresa's pulling
spring?
it up for us. I think we let it expire in February or in March with this new ordinance.
Didn't we adopt the new ordinance just after a work session last spring?
It was a 90-day moratorium that went into effect, I believe, in December, and it expired in March. Is that right, or February?
Yes, so there was one moratorium that was done in November of 2024, one that was done in March of 2024. I will have to pull up the minutes from both of those to see
But
what you approved.
but what you're saying, because I forgot all about the ordinance that we adopted. I'll be honest, it all starts running together. But we approved that ordinance. Will you remind me exactly what that ordinance restricted?
The ordinance required that prior to the city receiving any plans or any applications for any projects, they would have to receive a letter of water and sewer
That's right.
capacity from the utilities department.
Thank you for that. I know what I approved at the time. I just forgot exactly what that included.
And there are two exemptions included in that, including the single family, and then I believe for a home business with 2 or fewer employees would be
Okay.
exempt from that same.
Yeah,
Okay.
we've had to tweak it since because it caught up some people we didn't want to catch up. We didn't want to get caught in that net of moratorium where they owned a piece of property and they couldn't build their house.
Yeah, we want to make sure we allow somebody who owned a piece of property that they could build their home on it, yes.
And for
Thank
the,
you for refreshing my memory on all that, because I knew that we were in a moratorium, and that ordinance is what took place of that. So thank you.
and there's also some flexibility so that if what they're coming in to build can help with the infrastructure we need for conveyance to the wastewater, so that it's helping us get where we need to be so that we do have better capacity. There is some flexibility in there so that it's not a complete lockdown. Of course, you have appeals. But anyway, anything else from council? This has to come back on Tuesday.
Thank you.
All right, D1, authorize award to successful respondent to the RFQ. This is for uniform services, HR. Ms. Lanford.
Good morning. Tiffany Lamford, HR Director. I am bringing to you a respondent to a RFQ for apparel and uniform services that we put out in November of last year. We had 14 submissions, however, one was ineligible because it came after the deadline. I included the scoring chart of all the eligible submissions, and we are asking for USA Custom Gear to be the awarded respondent to this. They are a local company. They have an office in Douglasville. They deal with apparel for many municipalities in the area, and they were mostly the most reasonable cost, but what really came down to was the shipping. So we'll save quite a bit by going local, but we may pay a little bit more for the item individually. And this will give us an opportunity to begin tracking what we're spending on uniforms. They also allow us to have a web store. So each department's administrative assistant will be able to have their own access online to order for their departments. And this will include t-shirts, polos, work pants, safety vests, jackets, hats, hoodies, sweatshirts, just about everything other than shoes and PPE.
So I looked through that and some of the pricing and everything. I like the idea that it'll be more consolidated and on. You said tracking the pricing. So my only question was this, because we're going to go with one vendor, it looks like, is that then going to prohibit y'all if, hey, they charge twice as much for work boots than so-and-so?
We're not including work boots. That's
Okay.
still going to be, however the departments get their work boots, they're going to keep that. This is just going to be for like shirts, pants, hoodies, hats, those kinds of things.
Okay. And y'all will be tracking, seeing how we're doing on what we're spending, cost,
Yes.
and, okay. And what, we would look at this again, kind of like we do for other uniforms, after a couple years, maybe we look back
Yeah,
and
the agreement is
compare.
for a year.
just 1 year?
Yes.
Got it, okay.
Mhm.
And I'm sure I read that, but there was
That's
also
okay.
113 pages on the last thing.
Yes, yes.
Okay. Questions from council? Anyone opposed to making this consent item number, I think we're at 4. We're at 5. I have so many notes on here that I'm probably going to be missing one. Wait a second, Villa Trace. That's 4. Okay, everyone good with this being on consent? Okay. All right, personnel policy amendments.
Yes. So at the beginning of every year, I try to do a little cleanup on our handbook and change what needs to be changed and add new policies as needed. So with the acceptance of the respondent for the apparel, I wanted to update the dress code policy. And I've struck out the area that is going to be removed and then highlighted in red what is going to be added. And it's just basically simplifying that employees will be ordering from this vendor going forward for these types of apparel needs for the department. And then, of course, the police department will keep their separate thing for officers and law enforcement. And then we have a couple of new policies to be added. In talking with purchasing and finance, we wanted to add a travel policy to the training and certification section. and that just outlines some more details on what it's like, or what it will be allowed when it's traveling. We are traveling for conferences, lodging, the mileage mileage reimbursement, and meal reimbursement. We wanted to outline those a little bit more specifically, and I'll be happy to answer any questions. Or Louise is here too if you have any questions on those.
Yeah, what exactly changed with the mileage reimbursement and the meal reimbursement?
Those didn't necessarily change. They just weren't documented anywhere in our policy.
We didn't have any documentation for it,
No.
but we have reimbursed for mileage.
No, we
and-
have. Yeah, we have. It may be in the purchasing policy. I'm not sure. No? Okay. I think it was just a practiced policy and not necessarily a documented policy.
Well, I'm glad we at least practiced it,
Yes.
even if it wasn't documented. Okay.
Yes. And the lodging within the 50-mile radius, I think that was kind of practiced, but now it's documented, so. Okay, and then,
Question,
yes, ma'am.
or maybe comment question. So I remember back when we had a time with travel, and let's just say some conferences occurred really far away with some training that could have been closer. And I don't know so maybe this will put into writing what we need. And I remember Councilman Carter and myself requiring at that time when we'd get those updates on training, that it also include the location. I totally forgot that.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's in there now.
It is.
So that added some accountability so that, well, heck, I went to New York last time. I think I'll do the training in Phoenix. And I'm not saying that was anything that was over the top, but we had a few incidents that were concerning. So this will take care of that. My understanding, hey, if you've got training in two different locations, but one's in state and it's the same training, obviously you would go to the in-state training. Does that, because you're talking about mileage and where you're going to go or whether you're going to fly or drive? Is there any accountability for that? That whether the training is local or far away, if it's the same, that you would choose the least expensive location to go to?
I don't think this
fits on the
policy
schedule. No.
actually addresses that. This is
Okay.
on after the training is actually approved. It goes through the approval process. We have a travel approval form that gets signed by the employee, the director, the city manager, purchasing, and finance. So once that has been approved, let's just say there's a conference in Tennessee, then that approval form gives them approval to travel to Tennessee, but then they would go through here to see how their meal reimbursements would be or their lodging reimbursements would be.
So do we have the accountability as far as?
The accountability,
deciding-
I would say, would be up to the discretion of the director and the city manager on that approval form.
Okay, city
Yes.
manager looking at it.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay, and
Yeah,
then.
go ahead, I'm sorry.
That's okay. And then we are also adding in an accident review committee and a vehicle accident policy under operating city vehicles and equipment. This came up with the various accidents that we've had over the past year, and we didn't really have a way of tracking them or reviewing them, and they kind of got lost in translation on who needs what report and that kind of thing. So we wanted to simplify it by making HR the trigger point for all of the actions to go out when it comes to an accident, and they're also the chair of the accident review committee. So this will mean that we will have to review all accidents as they happen, and the committee will consist of HR director, the department director or supervisor of the involved employee, fleet manager or a designee, and then city manager or a designee. So the committee their purpose will be to verify whether this accident is considered preventable or unpreventable. And then that will go back to the department and the city manager and HR, and then they will move forward into the vehicle accident policy, which breaks down what a progressive disciplinary action would look like if it is considered unpreventable
Prevent.
or preventable. Sorry. Preventable. Sorry.
I know we have a time where a lot of people like to hit our police cars and it wasn't our fault.
Yes, yes, yes. And then, so the vehicle accident policy breaks down that progressive discipline action along with what would be, I guess, the consequences of these at-fault accidents.
Real quick, Tiffany,
Yes.
because we just mentioned the police department. Are they included in? Okay, so if it's an accident that, like, let's say they use certain maneuvers to control the situation, they would technically be at fault. So how does that work?
That would be, I guess, on a case-by-case basis, and that's where the department head or the supervisor of the person involved in the accident would be on the accident review committee for that specific accident, so that they could talk more to what is considered allowed in certain situations for law enforcement.
And I'm only
Hit
asking.
maneuvers done over the holidays, didn't you?
Hey, it can happen.
Yeah.
So, I just wanted to kind of clarify that because I know that our police, it's a little different when they're
Absolutely. Yeah,
they're
that's what the
for
department
public
head
safety.
would be
And,
there for.
I'd like to thank the chief. He's the one that actually brought this to our attention, and wanted there to be a policy for this to kind of help him have some guidance on dealing with at fault and helping making that determination.
Okay.
Yes. Yeah. We worked together with the chief, me and him, to come up with this.
Yeah, because I don't want us to. I don't want to see us lose good officers. Because,
No, of course not.
You know, they're doing what they need to do, and
Yeah.
even if they were to be at fault.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, there's always the things of chases and when to chase and when not to chase. So that I'm sure that all kind of has to go through some sort of review
Yeah.
process,
This
and
would
along with the policy that's in set, already there.
Right. This wouldn't necessarily involve per se every collision that happened. It would. Yeah.
I know I'm playing the what if game. I just wanted to clarify
No, you're good.
for that.
Yeah.
Yeah,
of
and
course.
it can be, it could be a public works truck, anything. It's just that the police cars are the ones
Yeah.
where, it's the police
Yeah.
cars more likely that we're having to replace because some of the things that have happened, I'm going, who else going to hit one of our people,
Yes,
because in
yes.
most cases, that's what it was.
Yes.
Okay, so any other questions, or are we good with making this
I have
consent?
one more
Yes.
policy. One more policy.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Sorry. And then we have the cell phone use policy that we're putting under the
Oh.
use of technology resources section. And Jim, the IT director, he's the one that wrote that one, so I'll let him talk about it.
Good morning, Mayor Council. Jim Chambers, IT Director. So when we brought in November to bring text archiving, there was a few things that we didn't know. One was we needed to have something a little more cleaned up in our policies for the mobile device management and for the text archiving and for city phones versus people with personal phones that are still having to use it for city business as well. So city phones, we just wanted to be for city use, city archiving, city messaging, and we're going to lock those down as we discussed before with the mobile device management. The city phone will no longer be a smartphone. It'll pretty much almost be a glorified flip phone with email by the time we're done with it. But for personal cell phones, people still have to use multi-factor authentication. They still need to be able to do access control for like the West Plant gate and for city doors and stuff like that. But those aren't subject to open record if you use that because those logs are stored on our servers. So there's no penalty for open records as far as that goes. Otherwise, we'd have to issue a city cell phone for literally every employee in the city, and that would make our expenses go up quite a bit. What we didn't know when we got into doing the city archiving is for the phones was how long it was going to take to get some of our licensing in order. The Apple Enterprise Manager, we're really struggling getting that passed through. We're 90% ready. Like I told you guys, we would be ready to go about mid-January, but that's the one hiccup that's really holding us back, and we're probably looking at closer to mid-February before we'll be able to have everything in place. Like if Apple said, flip the switch right now for us to go, we're probably still a good 3 weeks to a month, because we have to lay hands on each single device in order to get it where it can archive and where we have the mobile device management installed also. So that's why we wanted to go ahead and put this policy in place, so that I think the only verbiage we have in our handbook right now is if you are on a city equipment, city use only. Well, that doesn't really apply today anymore. So we needed to have something a little bit more firm in place.
Questions from council? Anyone opposed to making this consent item number 6? Okay. Parks and Recreation. Let's make sure I'm in the right place here. Yeah. Ms. Martinez is doing this one. Artist and Production Service contract for the summer concert series and our festivals.
Yeah. Hi, good morning, Mayor and Council. Karina
Morning.
Martinez, Events Manager. So I am here to present the artist contract for the 2026 Artist and Production Service contracts for the festivals and all of the concerts coming up. We actually did an RFP for this again this year, and we received 4 companies that did bids. As you can see on the packet, RCS came out to be the lowest and more effective bidder against all other 3 companies. It was a group of 5 of us that did the scoring, and all of us decided that it was RCS that was the best company to go with. Again, this RFP also states that they are entering into some type of contract with 2 to 3 years with an optional extension of 2. However, it does not bind us. If we have a bad experience with RCS for this year, then next year we can definitely RFP it again and find another company.
I guess it's the Wild Wild West right now.
Yeah.
I'll go first. Oh, you're up right there? Yeah. Okay. Okay. Karina, so this is not just for artist services, but they do the whole thing, sound, lighting, and everything, right?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay. And my information may be dated and it may be a few years old, but I recall in the years past, there was, the way RCS did it was if you paid a certain amount of money, or if your budget was at a certain level, then they would provide artists within this kind of range. And if you go higher, then you can get artists in this range.
Correct.
And I know we already passed the budget, and I'm not asking you to redo all this stuff, but just I'm going to ask that when budget season comes around again next year, I would like to see different options to say, if we do this level budget, these are the kind of artists, not necessarily holding us to any kind of specific artist, but these are the kind of artists that we may be able to have for our concert series or July 4th or whatever it may be, July 3rd. And if we pay this, then it'll be these level. If I'm just going to reiterate my request again for that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay? Thank you, ma'am.
We can do that.
Are there any other questions for staff? Seeing none.
Roll that down again, Teresa. Oh, the one with Thomas Dorsey. I saw something at the bottom that was in red, and I was wondering about it.
All right, Councilman Barr? Oh, I'm sorry. Did anyone else have any questions? Seeing as there are none, is council in favor for making this consent item? Oh, she wasn't lying. This is 7. She has a lot of notes that she wrote down here. All right, so we will make that consent item number 7. Moving on to G1. This will be Miss Whitney Cox for Villa Steak and Seafood LLC pouring license.
Good afternoon, Mayor and new Mayor Pro Tem and Council.
That was
Whitney
very
Cox,
quick.
Licensing Specialist. I have for you today an alcoholic beverage license application for Villa Steak and Seafood LLC. This business is a newer restaurant located at 219 West Wilson Street. They are looking to obtain a limited pouring license, which would allow for them to pour beer and wine only at the restaurant.
This will have to come back for a hearing. Any questions from council? And the applicant will be, the applicant is planning to be here, I expect,
Yes.
on Tuesday.
Correct.
All right, so if there's no questions, we will move on. Thank you, Ms. Cox. Finance, Ms. Long, budget amendments.
Amanda Long, interim finance director. I'm bringing 100 line items, budget amendments.
A bunch.
These are mostly cleanup items. Our year end ended September 30th. These first 41 items are outstanding POs from last year that we are asking to roll forward so that the budget from was spent last year, but the product, I guess, wasn't delivered. I have details if anybody has questions about them, but they're just kind of by line item, the expense, and then we pull this out of fund balance because the unspent money will roll into fund balance at the end of September.
They were already budgeted, they were already planned for that item, committed to that item, there's a term for that.
Committed.
Encumbered, there you go, finance question. I mean, term. So it's just a matter of they ended up having to get, they're gonna get taken care of in 2025, okay. And that's for
That's
40, 41 of them, isn't it?
Yes,
Okay,
items 1
yep.
through 41 are rolling over POs. Also, kind of in that same realm are items, the rest of them, 42 through 100. We are rolling over capital projects here. So these are projects that were approved and started in years past, some of them many years past. So we're just asking to roll these projects forward and include them in this year's budget.
So again, all of this was these oh my gosh, these funds were all allocated for these items at one point, but because they weren't used, they were put into the fund balance, and so we're just requesting to
roll them forward to fiscal year 2026.
Okay.
Does this also apply, it applies to those capital projects that we expected from the beginning to get paid for over a period of years. We just don't know exactly when that money's going out, depending on the timing. Okay, yeah. So it's not like we're taking some massive change and adding in new stuff. I just want to make that clear, because when people see this many amendments, just realize that these were already planned and budgeted for.
Yes. That's all I have.
Anything else from council? Questions? Anyone can, let's see, we're at 8. Anyone opposed to making this consent item number 8? Okay. That'll be helpful on Tuesday. Okay, we're going to be moving into executive session. Oh,
Madam
yes.
Mayor, could you review the
Oh,
consent
yes,
agenda
okay,
prior?
so consent agenda, now, I may just read them off rather than numbers because of the switch around, and I don't care what order y'all put it in. The first one, appointment of election superintendent. Oh, well, it actually goes down to the bottom. Do you need them in that order? Okay, all right, Okay, we jumped down and did Public Works first. So we had the LMIG application. And then we jumped back up, we did the appointment of election superintendent. Then the adoption of Northwoods Phase 3 final plat. The Villa Trace final plat. Authorization to award the respondent to the RFQ for the uniform services. The personnel policy amendments. The artist and production service contract for the summer concert series and festivals. Then, we already did that one. And then budget amendments. And that should be 8. All right, we're going to be moving into executive session. Mr. Mecklin, would you read the purposes for why we are going into exec session?
Yes, my understanding is that the council is proposing to go into executive session for the purpose of meeting with legal counsel to discuss pending or threatened litigation or items covered by the attorney-client privilege.
All right, so we will.
We need a motion to that effect.
So
Who's gotta
moved.
go? Okay. We have a motion to go into executive session?
Matthew did.
I moved.
Okay. Did I hear a
And
second?
You need a second? I'll second.
All in favor?